Giving up more points than every other team in the league isn't just a bad season, it's a complete system collapse that's burning Dak's best years for nothing. Sitting 30th in total yards allowed while our linebackers eat turf is a total roster failure that Jerry can't fix with cheap band-aids. We're staring at a $301.2 million cap year that's about to be flushed down the drain if we don't find a heartbeat for the spine of this defense right now. I'm looking at the kicker mess in the draft board today, but you've got to hang on for the real news at the end. There's a 28-year-old, one-man wrecking crew sitting in a South Florida fire sale right now. A guy who put up 183 tackles and a 77.8 overall grade last year. Jerry can grab him for a conditional fifth-round lottery ticket, and it's the only move that actually saves this season. If you value the math over the marketing Jerry's feeding us, drop a like to keep this frequency open. We've got to start with this absolute disaster on Jerry's desk. Dallas doesn't do quiet. This offseason is a complete pressure cooker. We've got unresolved deals piling up fast, contract standoffs threatening the roster, gaping holes on defense, and massive draft calls crashing into the exact same window. Every day they wait, the price goes up. The front office is dealing with a ticking clock that refuses to stop. Right out of the gate, we've got two massive contract standoffs totally frozen, and the money sitting on the table is heavy. We're operating with a $301.2 million salary cap in 2026. You'd think a $3 million gap is just pocket change. Not for Brandon Aubrey and the Dallas Cowboys. That number isn't a rounding error, it's a brick wall. It's the exact distance between a signed contract and a brutal, dragged-out impasse. Fighting over $3 million when you have a $301 million pie is a massive failure in cap prioritization. When your kicker is the most consistent scorer on the sheet, you pay the premium to avoid the volatility of the open market. It's simple asset protection. Calvin Watkins just confirmed it. Zero movement. Aubrey wants $10 million a year. The Cowboys countered just under $7 million. Dallas slapped a second-round tender on him for $5.76 million. That guarantees they get the first right of refusal if another team tries to poach him. Checking the history on this reveal is vital. Dallas offered a number early on to make Aubrey the highest-paid kicker in football. It beat Harrison Butker's $6.4 million record in Kansas City. Aubrey rejected it. Right after that, the Texans handed Ka'imi Fairbairn a 2-year, $13 million deal. New benchmark set at $6.5 million a year. Dallas came back with a revised offer beating Fairbairn's money, but Aubrey wants to shatter the scale. He's asking to bump the kicker market by 50%. Put that in quarterback numbers, that's like looking at Dak Prescott's $60 million salary and demanding $90 million. The Cowboys are shutting that down completely. You can't ignore the math on Aubrey, though. 3 years in Dallas, 112 makes on 127 attempts. Deep accuracy, 35 hits from beyond 50 yards out of 44 tries. The game changed. The rules changed. Deep kicks are a legit, heavy offensive weapon now. If the kicker is suddenly this massive piece of the scoring machine, the guy delivering those points expects to get paid like a premium asset. The fan base is getting frustrated, and it's obvious why. Dallas loves playing hardball. We've seen this movie, and it usually costs the franchise more money later. They promise a new way of doing business this offseason, but staring down Aubrey like this, it's the exact same old Jerry Jones playbook. Aubrey actually spoke on the Fairbairn deal. He basically said, whenever the market jumps, every kicker cashes in. Anytime the market goes up as a whole, every kicker makes money, Aubrey stated. When he signs a new record contract, that makes the guy signing number 32, anybody that's signing a new deal, the prices go up. Is paying him a $3.5 million premium over the number 2 kicker actually worth it? That's the real fight right now. Then you have George Pickens. Totally different beast, but the exact same standoff energy. Dallas refused a long-term deal. They slapped a franchise tag on him instead. A 1-year, $27.3 million lock. Under the current rules, the organization owes him nothing past this season. If Pickens wants real leverage, he has to hold out, sitting out OTAs, skipping minicamp, forcing the front office to sweat. He's coming off a monster 93-catch, 1,429-yard season. The long-term deal he wants lands around 4 years and $120 million. That's the going market rate. But Dallas, they're under zero pressure to meet it. 1,400 yards is serious production, but the tag is a fixed cost. Pickens holding out only works if Jerry believes the replacement level talent behind them is a total zero. Right now, it's a game of chicken over $27 million in guaranteed money. If you've watched this franchise over the years, you know doing absolutely nothing isn't just possible, it's usually their favorite play. They have until July to sign a long-term deal before the window slams shut. Right now, radio silence. Watkins says there are no active talks happening. The current read is Pickens eventually caves, plays on the tag, and takes the cash. It seems at this stage Pickens will play on the tag and keep it moving, Watkins reported, but so much can change between now and camp. Everyone's telling Pickens the same thing. Take the tag, repeat the numbers, hit free agency with maximum power. That Prescott even stepped in. He used his own history of playing on the franchise tag and still getting his massive payday. If you can go 1 year for $30 whatever it is million, it's the same thing I got when I franchised, Prescott said. Hey, go do it. Bet on yourself. But let's be real, that comparison has hard limits. Quarterbacks live in a totally different financial universe. For a receiver eating turf every Sunday, the injury risk is genuinely different. Then you have Le'Veon Bell, the guy who famously sat out a whole year to fight the tag. He went on Michael Irvin's show and basically told Pickens not to make the same mistake he did. If I'm George, yeah, I think I play on the tag and in hopes of trying to get a deal worked out, Bell admitted. I think they do make a deal eventually because they got CeeDee Lamb too. If the Cowboys want to get back to being the Cowboys, get to the Super Bowl, they need to keep their weapons.
But here is the real gut punch. While we're distracted by these massive contract fires, a new projection just dropped. Dallas is secretly lining up a draft move that no one sees coming. A massive swing that could completely alter the DNA of this receiver room. Let's break down exactly what they're hiding on the draft board. Dallas missed the playoffs in 2025, and we walked into this offseason expecting an absolute earthquake. Jerry Jones stood at the podium and practically promised he was opening the checkbook. What did we actually get? A slow drip. The biggest move they've made so far is shipping a 2027 fourth-round pick to Green Bay for edge rusher Rashawn Derry. They also brought in safety Jalen Thompson and cornerback Kobe Durant. But let's be honest, that entire package leaves this fan base starving for a real difference maker. Here is the one massive advantage we are holding right now. The 2026 NFL Draft. The Cowboys are sitting on 2 first-round bullets at number 12 and number 20 overall. Every single analyst out there is screaming the exact same thing. They all expect Dallas to burn both of those picks on a defense that was legitimately one of the worst units in football last year. Chad Reuter just dropped a mock draft that flips the board. He's projecting Dallas to grab Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate at number 12. That completely shreds the idea that we're going all in on defense. It flips the entire draft board upside down. Grabbing a receiver at 12 when you can't stop the run is a classic Jerry move. It's about selling jerseys and flash while the technical spine of the team is made of wet cardboard. Jerry's valuation of the asset scale is clearly shifting toward offense. Reuter didn't hold back on his reasoning. He laid it out plain and simple. It's unclear whether George Pickens will be traded or play in Dallas on the franchise tag, Reuter wrote. If Pickens stays, adding Tate on the outside and moving CeeDee Lamb into the slot would be a beautiful setup for quarterback Dak Prescott. The resume on this kid is violent. Tate is coming out of Columbus as one of the sharpest, most violently technical route runners in this entire class. In 3 years with the Buckeyes, he racked up 121 catches, 1,872 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Just look at his final season. 51 catches, 875 yards, and 9 trips to the end zone. NFL.com is officially comparing him to Chris Olave. That means he has true number 1 upside and the kind of pro-ready hands that translate to Sunday football immediately. 9 touchdowns in a final college season is a high-efficiency metric. If Tate's catch rate translates, he's a $20 million asset on a rookie wage scale. That's the kind of math Jerry loves because it delays the inevitable cap hell. The plan here actually makes total sense. We already know George Pickens is a massive question mark long-term. Pulling the trigger on Tate at number 12 gives Dallas a real, locked-in answer for the future. And if Pickens actually stays on the roster this year, we are suddenly rolling into the 2026 season fielding the most dangerous, heavy-hitting receiver room in the entire league. This is a hedge against Pickens walking. It's smart asset management, but it doesn't stop the bleeding on the other side of the ball. We're building a Ferrari with no brakes. But here is the massive catch. Taten's widely rated as a top 10 freak talent. That means Dallas needs some serious luck to see him sitting there at 12. But if the board falls right and he slips, Jerry Jones is going to be staring down the hardest decision of his offseason. Passing on a receiver of Tate's caliber to draft a run stuffer would be nearly impossible to justify. In a league that's increasingly about points per drive, Tate at 12 is a value play you can't ignore. But if we pass on a nose tackle to take him, don't be shocked when we're giving up 5 yards a carry again. But while we're dreaming about rookie receivers fixing the offense, a brand new leak just exposed a different plan. There are 2 veteran free agents floating out there right now, and reports say Dallas is quietly setting them up as the final pieces to fix this broken defense. The front office is actually making real moves. But guys who break down the tape are already screaming about 2 massive holes where Dallas still desperately needs heavy help. We're dangerously thin on nose tackle depth, and the linebacker room is still a total mess. You can buy new tires, but if the engine is blown, the car still isn't moving. Rolling into week 1 with this linebacker depth is asking to be exploited. Christopher Knox over at Bleacher Report just circled veteran free agent DJ Reader as the exact piece the Cowboys need to finish this puzzle. Reader turns 32 right as the 2026 season kicks off, and he walks in the door carrying 10 solid years of NFL trench warfare. He isn't the guy who's going to hunt the quarterback, but as a pure brick wall run stopper, he brings the exact kind of violent physicality and gap control to the inside that perfectly matches what Dallas just built on the defensive line. We don't need stars, we need bouncers. Reader is a 330-pound gap filler. If he keeps the linebackers clean, the defense might actually climb out of the basement. It's about the price per yard saved. Knox didn't hold back on why this works. Reader would be a great addition for the Dallas Cowboys, who traded away Osa Odigizua and Solomon Thomas, Knox wrote. He could serve as a run-stuffing specialist behind Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams to help boost the defense that allowed 4.7 yards per carry in 2025. 4.7 yards a carry is an indictment of the entire front seven. Adding Reader to Clark and Quinnen creates a meat grinder that actually protects our investment in the secondary. Knox didn't stop there. He also linked the Cowboys straight to Bobby Wagner. The guy turns 36 in June, but if you turn on the tape, his play hasn't dropped off a cliff at all. Wagner's gearing up to play his 15th NFL season in 2026, and what he did on the field last year proves he still belongs out there. 162 tackles at age 36 isn't just luck, it's a technical understanding of the game. If the price per tackle stays low, Wagner is a logical placeholder while we develop the next generation. Wagner can still man the linebacker position better than most, Knox stated. Just look at the math from his 2025 season. Wagner racked up 162 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 4 passes defended, and 2 picks. That's a stat sheet that instantly upgrades almost every single defense operating in the league today. 162 tackles is a high-volume metric for a guy they call washed. We need a veteran general who doesn't panic when Parker's new scheme gets complicated. Right now, the front office is totally banking on the draft to patch up what's left of this defense. But if April passes by and they strike out on finding the right kid at nose tackle or linebacker, these veteran killers are probably still sitting there on the market, and Jerry would be crazy not to make the call. But while we're obsessing over linebackers and run stuffers, there's a completely different monster lurking in the shadows. One of the absolute most violent edge rushers in the sport is quietly hovering around Dallas's radar, and the brand new update just threw the entire timeline into chaos. Week 1 of free agency wraps up, and Jerry Jones stands in front of the cameras saying the Dallas Cowboys haven't closed the door on trading for Las Vegas Raiders edge rusher Maxx Crosby. But if you listen to the insiders actually dialed into the league, getting Crosby at Texas is going to be a massive, dragged-out headache compared to what everyone thought on day one. Jerry loves the headline of a Crosby trade, but the cap implications are a total nightmare. It's easy to talk about going all in when you're not the one balancing the 2027 books. Albert Breer just went on the record with Sports Illustrated's Connor Orr, and he didn't sugarcoat a single thing. Breer laid it out flat. If a deal for Crosby actually goes down, we might be sitting around waiting until the middle of the damn season. Waiting until mid-season is a gamble on the Raiders being bad. If Crosby plays like a $100 million asset in September, the price tag is going to skyrocket beyond our reach. Breer spelled it right out. If he's going to be traded, I think it's going to have to come after Maxx Crosby gets back on the field and plays really well, so people will forget about everything that just happened, Breer stated. That way, it becomes a little easier when it comes to managing your owners and your fan base. It also makes it easier to go out and trade for him again. Don't forget, Dallas actually threw a heavy punch early on. Adam Schefter over at ESPN reported the Cowboys slapped the first and the second round pick on the table back on March 7th. The Raiders laughed and took a monster deal from the Baltimore Ravens instead, a massive package carrying 2 first-rounders. But then the whole thing blew up. The deal got voided, Crosby got sent right back to Vegas, and the trade rumors instantly caught fire all over again. 2 first-rounders for 1 edge rusher is a desperate overpayment. Jerry was right to stop at a first and a second. Even for a game wrecker like Crosby, the price has to make technical sense for the roster's long-term health. Albert Breer just hit ESPN on March 15th and said talks could actually fire back up right around the NFL draft. That timeline is way better for Dallas than sweating it out until mid-season. But Breer's nightmare scenario depends entirely on Vegas. If the Raiders actually string some wins together in September, they aren't trading Crosby to anybody. They'll just keep him. Banking on the Raiders failing is not a plan. If we don't fix the edge rush in the draft and Vegas stays competitive, Jerry's going to be left holding an empty bag. But if they're really bad October or early November and he's playing great, then they don't have that conversation, Breer explained. That's probably the smartest way to move forward if you're the Raiders. Whether Dallas actually pulls the trigger at the trade deadline totally depends on our own record. Don't forget, they went out and grabbed Quinnen Williams at the deadline last year when we were sitting in the mud at 3-5-1. The precedent for making a desperate midseason splash is already there. Trading for Quinnen at 3-5-1 was a panic move to save jobs, not a technical roster build. If we're in that spot again, the Crosby price tag won't matter because Jerry will be fighting for his life. The moves we've made since the Raiders laughed at our first Crosby offer, signing Tyrus Wheat, bringing back Sam Williams, trading for Gary, none of that moves the needle for anyone paying attention. We still desperately need a violent, game-changing piece on defense. Crosby fixes the bleeding in a way none of these other guys can even touch. Having him on the field instantly makes every single guy playing next to him dangerous. Crosby is a force multiplier. Without him, we're just rearranging the furniture on a burning deck. But while everyone's hyper-focused on the edge rush, a completely different massive trade target just quietly surfaced at linebacker. And let me tell you, the fit for Dallas is way more violent and perfectly timed than anyone wants to admit. Dak Prescott actually drove this offense to a genuine Super Bowl level in 2025. But the defense, they completely choked the season away. Jerry Jones and his front office have made a few real moves to stop the bleeding this offseason. But there's one massive hole they're completely ignoring right now. A true violent linebacker who actually has the sideline-to-sideline speed and raw instincts to hold this entire unit together. I told you at the start of this video there was one move that could actually save this defense, and he's sitting right in front of us. Miami Dolphins linebacker Jordan Brooks is exactly who I'm talking about. He's 28 years old, and he's currently trapped in a massive South Florida fire sale that Jerry needs to exploit right now. We are just talking about another body for the rotation. We're talking about the guy who racked up a league-leading 183 tackles. Add in a massive 77.8 overall PFF grade, including a dominant 92.4 against the run, and he's light years ahead of anyone currently wearing a star on their helmet. Miami's having a fire sale, and Jerry needs to be the first guy walking through the door with a shopping cart. When a team's desperate to dump veterans, you take advantage of it, especially when they're grading out in the top tier like Jordan Brooks is. The Dolphins are actively shopping any veteran with a pulse who holds trade value. They prove they aren't messing around when they shipped out Jalen Waddle. Acquiring Brooks demands far less capital from Dallas than that transaction required. More pointedly, Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegrams reported that the Cowboys stepped away from conversations with Pittsburgh regarding Patrick Queen and shifted attention toward Brooks among other candidates. Backing off Patrick Queen was the right call. The Steelers are asking for a premium we couldn't justify. Pivoting to Jordan Brooks is a calculated technical move. He's a cheaper, high-volume killer who outperformed Queen in every major tackle and gap integrity metric last season. This is the technical fix for that 30th ranked yardage defense. Brooks provides the kind of reliability and consistency this system's starving for. For a Cowboys unit working to climb out of the bottom tier of the league, adding a guy who basically functions as a heat-seeking missile in the run game has massive value. We're talking about a player who raises the defensive floor by himself. The mechanics of this lottery ticket deal are straightforward. Dallas would send a conditional 2026 fifth-round pick, one that escalates to a fourth-round selection if Brooks hits his production triggers. The Dolphins, operating in total rebuild mode, are ready to eat the dead money on his deal just to move him. They're looking for assets for 2027, and Jerry's looking for a season saver. Trading a day 3 pick for the NFL's leading tacklers, the definition of a value play. If Jerry doesn't finalize this swap, he's basically admitting he isn't serious about winning in 2026. A day 3 return may not generate attention, but for an organization focused on restocking with cost-controlled contributors, any prospect capable of developing into a dependable roster piece represents a quality outcome for Miami. For us, it's the difference between a playoff run and another year of watching opponents march down the field. Miami wants lottery tickets, and we want a linebacker who can actually hit somebody. It's a win-win that should have been signed yesterday. The logic supports the trade from both sides. Jordan Brooks is the one-man wrecking crew we talked about at the top of the video, and he's the only move that makes the math work for this defense. The motivations align, the cost is dirt cheap, and the need is desperate. Don't be shocked to see this deal hit the wire before camp starts. This is our real winning window, and if we blow it because we wouldn't trade a fifth-round pick for a 183 tackle machine, we deserve to lose. If you're tired of the front office treating your loyalty like a revenue stream, subscribe to the channel. We'll keep looking at the ash until they build something that doesn't burn down. Catch you guys in the next one.